So the next panel is called Run the World. Please welcome to the stage your host, Sophia Cannon, joined by Lauren Currie, Suzy Ashworth, and Vicki Neave. Hello. Hey, welcome. Got everyone, hello, welcome, welcome, come on up. Clap again, clap again. Hello, welcome.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
I'll go like that. My gum will get stuck.
So you want some water?
Yeah. I'll sit along.
Thank you.
Any more?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mums, friends, children. I wish I had this 10 years ago when I had my twins. I have twin children. They were born prematurely, and as a lawyer, I realized that I was pregnant and screwed. When I was in court, someone was tugging at my robe to let me know that my twins were in intensive care. And I had to go back to work with my two babies in intensive care in different hospitals in different parts of the country. Because guess what? The NHS doesn't think that women have more than one baby at one time. So there's no protocol in place for women who have multiples, even though more of us are using other fertility methods to have children. And I remember sitting down thinking, as both of their monitors were going off, this can't be right. And I left the profession, I left the bar, and there's a high attrition rate of women at the bar. And when I went into chambers, the shocking thing I found were that there were no women at the top. And one of the things I remember was that the women at the top were all childless. And I want you to know that you are not alone. One of the things that I wish I knew was that there were other women in other chambers, very isolated, with very similar issues. Back then, we did not have the hashtag. We didn't have the forums, we didn't have the groups. And importantly, we didn't have the knowledge of what we would call now community power. I think the first time I realised that was at the mother and baby groups that I went to, and we worked out one day in our mother and baby group that on the floor, on the goddamn floor, there was about £100,000 worth of, £10,000 worth of handbag. Yeah, we'd all been somebody, we've all done something, we all were something. Moreover, when we went to the twins group, we realised that there were other mothers in different social economic circumstances that were caught by issues of benefits, caught by being dismissed at work and had no recourse to legal aid. And I thought to myself, this cannot continue. So I've agreed to come and chair this panel about confidence. And moreover, Emily, sweet, could you make yourself known? Emily? Ah, wonderful. This is my literary agent. I'm writing a book. Right? Great. Yeah? But I'm not interested in my book today. What I'm interested in is in your book, in your idea, and your story. So you've all got these. Get a pen, get an idea down, and you're going to learn from the best. You're going to learn, first of all, from Lauren Currie, OBE, and she's the founder of Up Front. She hauls her little red sofa over the world, puts it on stage so that you can sit next to other women who appear to have all the confidence to talk, like I do, and you learn from the best from the stage. Lauren Currie, welcome. And next to her we have Suzy Ashworth. She is the author to be, because I made her write it, she's going to write it, The Limitless Life Experience. And she's a life coach, and she can give you tips on what the truth is, yes? Because what are the things we don't do? We talk about women. We're not honest with each other about what childbirth looks like. You probably think, oh, look at Sophia, she's here with a nice dress. I forgot to zip it up. The number of times that has happened. We don't talk about our real life experiences. And Suzy is the queen of real life. And finally, we have Vicki Neave, otherwise known as, in no particular order, and founder of Just a Line Prince. She's mother of 4, 17, 13, 15 and 9. She's in the 6th form when it comes to motherhood. She knows what she's doing, or does she? There's a lot of first-time mums here, and things that we should be telling you as experienced mothers, perhaps you've heard more about today. And ladies, I introduce to you your panel on confidence and how to run the world. So if I was going to say to you, Lauren, you've just had a baby. How old?
He's 1 and 2 weeks. The back of the room next to Julie.
Yeah. I want him to sing a song.
And what have you learned from personal experience and professional experience in that year about confidence and motherhood?
So I was running my startup up front around confidence for 2 years before I had my baby. So I had a lot to say about confidence before, and now I've had my baby. And I feel I'm only a year in, so I'm very in it, and I'm very tired, as I know lots of you are too. But I think the biggest thing for me right now is that women are not telling each other the truth about our bodies and about our real lives as mothers. And we are still too often sharing our show reels and perpetuating this falsehood that confidence is a gift from the gods that some of us are born with and some of us are not. And the reason I do the work I do, and I do it the way that I do it, is to try and bust those myths and help all of you realise that we are all ordinary yet extraordinary, and we are all powerful, but we need to help each other realise that.
Suzy, if I was going to say to you, if you had a slogan to give about motherhood, what would it be and why?
Oh, a slogan about motherhood. It's all going to be all right in the end. That would be my slogan about motherhood. It's not, yeah. I think that when it comes to confidence and motherhood, I think just really reiterating what Lauren has just said, there is a myth that we're born with it, and if you've either got it or you haven't. And confidence comes from experience. And when we go into motherhood for the first time, none of us, we're all starting from dot. None of us have any experience. And you're not just learning about how to parent, but also learning about who you are in this new role. And you only can ever become more confident with experience, with time. So it's okay to feel like you're in the middle of a shitstorm, because most likely you are, but everyone else is as well. And it will all be all right in the end. If it's not the end, if it's not all right, it's not the end. So.
And Vicki, you have had battles with your own confidence over having 4 children?
It feels great being up here.
Yeah, I make it sound so easy, just chatting on the hoof. As you can hear, I'm northern, and when I first stood up in court, the judge refused to hear me because I wasn't dressed appropriately. My top was a little bit too low. So after that, I make sure I step everywhere like I'm from the 1950s, darling. But carry on. So, come on, Vicki. You've been through it. You've got 4 children now. They can dress themselves. Yeah. It happens.
They dress me. They literally, now I've got them and they're like, oh, Mum, try that. And it's like, oh, okay. But I think that's part of the problem. You have 4 children. Somehow everyone looks at you as if you're some kind of superwoman. And I'm like, it doesn't make me any better at it just because there's more of them. I now have a massive telly in the bedroom. So, and a hysterectomy. I mean, that helped as well. So there's no more children. But it's exactly what you said. And I want to tell you that I have answers. Mine are 17, 15, 13 and 9, and constantly every day my husband is like, we're like, what do we do now? What's that? How do we deal with this situation? And it just evolves, and you just have to, I think you just have to believe in what you're doing. And once you own that, then I think the kids sort of come along for the ride. If you're sort of playing at it a bit too much, they literally, kids see through it and they just walk all over you. So, I just try and be really blunt with mine and just be like, well, I mean, now there's a lot of screaming now and again as well, but I'm like, none of us know what we're doing. Just, you've got to help me, you've got to give. And as they get older, you've got to say to them, come on, you give it back, you talk to me too. Otherwise, we're all just going to not get out of bed.
How about this for a question for all of you and the panel, just in your heads, right? If you could go back, stand in front of a mirror whilst you're still pregnant, and tap yourself on the shoulder today, what would you tell yourself about what's coming, what to expect, and what to think? Confidence-wise.
Thank you for narrowing it down.
I think, so there'll be a lot of people in here. There is some familiar faces I can see in here. You have a child, you go through a rebirth yourself. And a lot of the people that I work with, they start their own businesses up because you're pregnant and then screwed. It doesn't fit, it's not the same once you have kids. So you want to be your own boss, you want to be your own woman, you want to have more control. You want to try and work out how to do the mum thing as well as earn money and look after yourself. And I think that if I could fast forward, my eldest now is 7. If I could rewind, I would tell myself that even though it's going to be bloody hard and it's going to be challenging and sometimes you will want to stab yourself in the eye because you just feel like you're getting it all wrong, that actually it's just going to keep getting better. Ups and downs, but who you were 10 years ago versus who you are now, what you've got now, the inspiration, the creativity, the opportunity to create new opportunities because of your kids is just going to blow your freaking mind. So get on the roller coaster and enjoy the ride.
And yeah, Lauren, you started a business when you were on maternity leave, is that right?
I did, yes. My baby was 2 weeks late, so in that period I decided to draw his name and make a piece of artwork for his nursery.
2 weeks late, but I'll set the business.
Because I love working, and actually I had a very different experience than the one that you describe, in that I was entrepreneurial, director level while I was pregnant, and I was headhunted during my maternity, and I've moved up a level now in my new role, and I was kind of waiting for my relationship to work to change, and it's not changed. Like, some of my motivations and ambitions, priorities have changed slightly, but in terms of my drive to work and the type of work that I want to do, that's still the same. And the only reason that I can do that work is because I have a partner, I think he's gone out the room now, but who is a full-time stay-at-home dad and literally does every single thing so that I can work the way that I work. But we started up our nursery art business while we were waiting on the baby, and it's called Letter Love Shop. And a percentage of our profits go to Pregnant Then Screwed, of course. And we make gender-neutral artwork to make your baby's name out of wild animals.
And it's doing well. Yeah, and finally, what would you go back and tell your pregnant self about what you've learned in your 17 years of being a mom?
It's funny, I was talking the other day, and I think all this guilt that you carry around as a mum, and weirdly, my husband, he just doesn't have that mechanism in him to carry the guilt that I carry. And, it's like the stuff on the stairs, he doesn't see that either, but it's the same thing. And, but I was talking to Oscar and the kids about this, and I was like, oh God, do you remember that day? And I felt so bad because I'd missed a train and I couldn't get back, and I was calling everyone I knew. We don't have any family around us, and I was calling all my friends to could you bring Millie? Because I have 4 kids at 4 different schools as well, but it's just a bit weird. And just to make life really easy. And Oscar was the one I just couldn't do anything about, so I phoned the school, and, I've had loads of kids go through this, and I've never asked for help, and I was like, you've got to help me. And so they put him in after school club. I was crying, and I got there, and I felt awful, and I was going to Oscar, oh God, do you remember that day? And he was like, Mum, that was the best day ever. They do toast, and I had hummus and carrots straight away. So you don't do that when I get in from school. And this day that I thought was like the worst day of my life, when motherhood, I just completely wrecked their lives. And Tommy was like, yeah, I went round James's, we had paella. And like what you see, and then what actually is their reality, and what you just don't realise. So I just think you just have to go with the flow. There's nothing. Sometimes there are situations, but it's just this guilt. And I'd love to say, don't feel guilty, but it's just there. It just happens. I wish it didn't. But actually, now we're coming. Everyone says we're coming out the other side. It's not. It's just a different side. Because my mum will say to me, "Why do they say motherhood? Like, I worry about you. I have to message my mum, and she doesn't care if it's like 1:30 in the morning. I need to know you're home." I'm like, okay. So it doesn't end. It just, you may be, and I want to say get more sleep, but then you get the menopause. And so, hey!
I know Suzy used to have a hypnobirthing business, and we're allowed crying babies, it's fine. Trust me. She used to have a hypnobirthing business, and one of the issues that she wanted to raise with all of you is this whole idea that, as you said, we need to talk our own truths. Could you actually expand on that and how that itself as a theory is important for women today?
Yeah, I think right at the start, Lauren was just saying we don't tell each other the truth about life, birth, womanhood. And I think that it's like in the Instagram world where everything looks shiny and filtered, it is so easy to fall into comparisonitis and feel like we're not enough and we're doing it all wrong. And so this idea of truth is really, really important to me. But appreciating that my truth, like we're all sat here together, and there are going to be 50 different accounts of what has happened here today. Now, your account is no more truthful than my account, or her account, or her account. And so that perception is really, really important when we are sharing our truths, to recognise that everybody comes at it from a different lens and a different angle. And I think that probably the most important thing is about releasing judgment. So I can accept your truth as your truth and not judge you for it. And you honour me and accept that my truth is my truth without judging. I think it's just an interesting conversation.
But Yeah. So I totally agree, but the thing that I get really cross about is that there are truths that are the best we know to be true, which is the data that exists around birth and pre-birth and post-birth. Now, Sophia, you shared a really powerful example of a statistic that's on the NHS website, that 90% of women who are cut during birth still experience pain 6 months later.
But the book is called The Laws of Being a Woman, and I wrote it, obviously, and there are 21 areas of the law that discriminate against you from before you're born until even when you're dead, unfortunately. And one of the ones, it's called Ills, Pills and Kills. You don't want to read it, and I didn't really want to bring it here, but you can imagine what that's all about. And the issue was, when I was getting data from the NHS about women's experiences, there weren't any. And it starts actually from the fact that women aren't going into science. But the issue on the NHS website, don't crush it. So go on to the cut. Obviously everybody worries about the tear, but women have to be cut. Go on and find the statistic. 90% of women 6 months later are saying that they're in pain after they've been cut. Can you imagine men rocking up to the GP saying, oh, I'm still in pain after an NHS procedure? There'd be riots in the streets. What the hell are you doing? Because when I sent this to the Americans and the Canadians, they were just saying, oh, God, you British women, you do put up with a lot, don't you? I was thinking, God, you need to get these statistics out.
And this is it. It's like we know how many births result in a section. We know how many women have postpartum mental health problems. We know how many women feel isolated. Like, that data exists. And for me, all the way through preparing for my pregnancy, I read every book. I went on the NCT course. I'm very digitally literate on Instagram, blogs, all these. So in a very privileged position. And none of that data was shared with me. As you can tell, I am not happy about this. Oh, I'm angry. I'm cross because it's damaging us unnecessarily. And I agree that if it was men having babies, I think the relationship that we have with this data would be very different.
Right, we have a couple of minutes left. Unfortunately, we're a little bit short of time, but I'm keen, really keen to hear from women who feel that their confidence is never going to go back to that pre-birth level of just being yourself. And I want to hear questions put to the panel, please. Anybody got... Wonderful, there's a lady at the front with a...
The most enthusiastic mic holder ever.
Yes. Woohoo! Please stand up, introduce yourself.
Or not, if you don't feel confident.
Oh, I can see that.
Hi, I'm Kira. My daughter's 2.5 now. I was at home with her for all of that time. I decided, well, I needed to go back to work for my sanity in November, but I'm finding it really, really hard to tap into the confidence, and I'm in a very senior position, to tap into the confidence I had before I had a child. I don't feel like the same person, and I feel this imposter syndrome that people talk about, and I'm just like, God, am I ever going to be?
Yes.
And I feel like I'm winging it a bit instead of...
No, and that...
I'm going to sit down now.
Confidence, yeah, slowly. A lot of the thing with confidence is you've got to wing it until you make it, and it's just even I couldn't stand in front of a mirror for like 20 years, so I just ignored them, or and then if you do that and then just pick one thing a day, like quite like that today, and then you're just giving yourself a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of positivity. You don't. If you're going to go to work and go, I'm going to be the most confident person today, you can't make that happen. But just keep going through feeling that. And there isn't a pill. I'm sure there is a pill that makes you really confident, but don't take that. Don't do coke. No, don't do coke. But it's something that you will get back in time. You know, you're still tired. You're still really tired, and you've got a really little one, and you've given so much that you've got to just slowly get that back.
And what advice would you give Laura at this stage?
So I think that the important thing is you're trying to be something you were. Like, you are different now. Your body's different, your brain's different, and your life's different. Like, we know that happens when we have a baby. So it's something about having that conversation with all other people in your life who are also different from who they... And it's not different, worse or better, it's just different. And I think seek out women who either do the same type of work as you or are at the same level as you in different industries. Even women you don't know, random women on the internet, and send them an email, send them a message and say, look, I've just come back to work and I see you as somebody who's a few steps ahead of me in the journey. Can I buy you a coffee? And I guarantee you'll be amazed at the number of women who will stand up and help you.
Yeah. Just before I bring up Suzy, I call that the sixth form issue. Remember, you all start school and you're in the first year and you see the sixth formers walking past you think, wow, they're amazing, how do they do it? They're all first years once. They're all in the same issues going through for going up to school. And you will get there. But it's always good sometimes to get a second year or a third year to say, actually, how do I do that? How did you manage to get your act together? We can't all be sixth formers when we're first years.
Those sixth formers are also, I've got a sixth former who just keeps going, oh my God, I wish I could go back to year 7 and do it all again. And you're like, that's the point, you know. That even the sixth formers that are there looking really cool because they don't have to wear uniform, and, you know, and they look like they've nailed it. They're actually still shitting themselves. So
yeah, we are.
You know, at every single level. Yeah.
There was a meme that was on Instagram the other day, and it was Jodie Foster saying that when she went to get her Oscar, the internal voice in her head was saying, are they going to find me out? And then you have Maya Angelou, who's like Oprah's best friend and mentor, talking about every time she released a book, she was wondering whether it was going to be a flop. Like, you always feel it, and I think that as you're expanding, and it is in our nature to want to grow and expand, you always have that doubt. And it's just about giving yourself permission to feel it and then moving beyond it. And the other thing I just want to really quickly say is that you don't go back to work until November. The voice in our head always makes it so much worse than what it is going to be. Like, oh, you went back in November. Oh, okay. I'll shut up then.
One more question. Lady in a red coat.
Lara.
Hello. I just wanted to say something positive. I actually feel more confident after having my son, who's now 5, so he's at school. So I wanted to say that, partly because it's so hard that there's no way work can be harder than that. And then going back to work, I think the boundaries that I was able to give my son, I brought into my workplace. And I found that treating some of my colleagues who were behaving like children, I actually found really effective when I parented them, and I never would have known to do that before. And on a practical level for me, before going back to work, I became a trustee, which really gave me confidence, and obviously it was a voluntary position, and often in the evening. So if anybody thinks that might be helpful for them to get back into the workplace before they actually go back to their paid work, it's a really interesting way to share responsibility strategically without putting yourself, in a position of power that you feel you can't cope with.
And just to add to that, I was a trustee of 2 charities, and they have to pay childcare. Yeah, so don't worry about that. So you can actually charge your trustees meeting for your babysitter. It's legal. Just get a receipt and go off to that trustees meeting and feel part of yourself whilst you're on maternity leave.
I also, for young women in the room who might be thinking trustee is a thing that comes when you reach a certain age. Like, I know there's charities in particular are desperate for young women to join their boards, particularly women and people of colour. They are really actively seeking these people out because they know that the diversity of their boards isn't good enough. And there's actually lots of programmes popping up to help you identify a charity that might fit. And I certainly say, like, always tweet me. I'm always online to be there as a sounding board for any of you who are taking a step towards something like that and feeling a bit unsure or looking for a second second opinion.
Finally, any more questions at all? On the floor? Yes.
Sorry, hi. Could I ask a follow-up question on that? What are the names of the organisations that help you find a trusteeship? Because I'm about to step down from one role, going back into work in 6 months, and looking to do that.
There's an organisation that I belong to called Women on Boards. Fiona Hawthorne. She's Australian, and my God, her story is an amazing one as well. I think she set it up while she was on maternity leave and also was discriminated against. But also use, I think, guardian jobs, charity jobs, and literally under the search function, put in trustee. And don't forget, you can do, if you're a finance director or an accountant, they're looking for that in the trustee sphere. I think there was literally one as I came up, somebody was saying, do you know a finance director who wants to do this trustees issue? You can do it simultaneously. It's one day sometimes every 3 months, and it's something to put on your CV. And sometimes you're reaching into organisations and you get, don't forget, the tap up. Oh, you're the first person to know if there's a gap going in that organisation. You're the first person to know any disciplinary issues. So you see the company or see the organisation from, as it were, behind the stage. And that's what I did. I lent my legal expertise to charities. And, you know, I used to sometimes have the babies underneath the table, fast asleep. Nobody minds. Yeah, it's late in the evening. And it's really, really good about the way of keeping your hand in. You can do 2 or 3. And as I said, I got called aside one day saying, why have you never made a claim for childcare in 3 years? Yeah, so make sure all you have to do is get your babysitter, don't care if she's 16, right on the back of a fag packet. That was £50, thank you. Hand it in and you get that back as your expenses. Every train, even getting a cab home if it's late at night. You don't work for free, but you get all your expenses paid and it keeps your hand in. Right? If anyone wants to chat to me about it, you can do. Any other questions at all? Oh, yes, please.
Thank you. I think one of the things that's happened to quite a few people in this room, and it's happened to me, is that your old company, which might have meant a huge amount to you, decided that you can't have flexible working, and that can really affect your self-worth and your confidence, and how you see yourself as someone who's worth, who has expertise that are worth something. So my question is basically, what advice would you give to anybody in that situation who's getting themselves back up when someone's given them that message quite clearly?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this becomes easier when you are working on something that you genuinely love. Now, I'm not saying quit your job, do what you love, because that's bullshit and not healthy either, because every job of every shape and size has got shitty bits in it. Like, nobody is jumping out of bed excited about their job every day, every minute, okay? If they're telling you that, then they're lying. But I think what you can do, because it becomes such a big decision, because our priorities are changed, and like, what am I going to spend my days on? If I'm taking myself away from my babies and my children, then where's my attention going to be? Like, that's a really big decision to make, and it's likely that the people you're competing against haven't thought as long and hard about it as you will have. And if you can channel that towards something, I mean, Jolie is an amazing example. It's like she's built and she stuffs her sandwich in her face. We love you.
Everyone look at you.
Everybody has to eat, even Jolie.
What did you do? What are you? What was your...
I was a head of learning and development for a talent consultancy, which is ironic. And now I'm a freelance trainer and designer, which I love. So I've totally gone down the route of what do I love? How can I make my skills more flexible? But it is hard to stand in front of people and say, hey, pay me this day rate. But my job, who knew me really, really well, decided I wasn't good enough to work 3 days a week.
Or
And that's something hard to stand up from.
It wouldn't have been about you though as well. You've got to take out that personal feeling that you've given yourself. You've piled all that on and it's so personal, but actually they're probably looking at figures and going, oh, we don't need that, boom, and forgetting that there's a person behind that. So you've done brilliantly and channeled it all into something else, but just release that they've given you, how they've made you feel, when actually they're feeling nothing now. They've just got rid of that amount of money. And so for you, just keep positive.
Tell people. Like, I feel like these communities, these networks of disciplines in different areas of business are small. Tell everybody you know who that organisation is and what they did to you. Yeah. Because the more we do that, the more it'll stop happening. Sorry, Andrew.
No, I think there's a big thing though, as self-employed women, what we do is attach our self-worth to our output and our results. And if you imagine looking at your baby, your child now, and saying, you'll be worth so much more to me when you start walking or when you start talking. It's like, we just would never ever do that. And so there's loads of internal work that we have to do so that we know, regardless of how big our bank balance is, or regardless of whether we get that job, that we're still worthy. We were born worthy. And so that was an old chapter, really reminding yourself on a daily basis that I'm a fucking badass just because I was born, is like an important part of the puzzle that we have to really, I don't know, be mindful about.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
You just did it so well.
I can see there are more questions. Our panellists will be hovering around for a bit, but I have to take them off the stage. And finally, before they go, they're going to give you their mantras. Yes? Their words. Yeah? About what they would say to you and what perhaps you can say to yourself before you start writing your own beliefs.
Oh, terrific. Start at this end. No, I mean, mine is completely, it sounds trivial, but photos are treasure. And it's something that this 10-year challenge, in 2009, it looks like I didn't exist. So I can't even do a 10-year challenge because I didn't allow photos. I had a baby, I've got one with Oscar, and it's heartbreaking. So unfortunately, the way it sounds quite tragic, but I lost a friend suddenly. We have no photos together because we were constantly taking them of the kids and actually not turning it on ourselves. And if we did, we'd go, oh, no, don't look at that. Or she had a fag on and she'd go, delete. And so we had none. So it's just knowing that actually it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like or how it makes you feel. That, to your children, is treasure. So I know it's completely, but it is to do with confidence because you've got to own those photos.
Yes. Suzy?
My mantra is faith plus action equals miracles. So.
And Lauren?
Every single person is scared of the fraud police. Everybody thinks they're going to come and knock on our door and take our money away and our kids away and tell everybody that we don't have the skills we think we do and we've been making it all up as we go along. Every single person feels that way.
Moms, it's been a pleasure, and I'm grateful for your time.